Enslaved. The anatomy of mental slavery. In this image I took it back to what I saw as the start of the problem, the beginning of the secular revolution of the Enlightenment era and man's shift from God consciousness to empiricism. This was represented by the books titled, Wealth of Nations, and Origin of Species hanging from the arms of the figure representing the embodiment of modern man. The image touched on man's futile attempt at replacing God consciousness by harnessing greed in order to bring about what they saw as a successful direction for mankind. Then I fast-forwarded to the dropping of the Hiroshima bomb to show the true nature of this new, unguided, God-free man. A new man, with a new plan for a new world order which had all the signs of a disaster in the making. God's guidance, or the old world order, is represented by a fraying rope tied to a book representing the divine source of knowledge depicted here as scriptures. The rope is connected to the floating portion of the truncated pyramid so as to keep it from dropping, as it would set off a chain reaction of global destruction. The rope itself is frayed into 3 strings representing the 3 Abrahamic faiths. 2 have broken and 1 remains as guidance for mankind, saving them from their self-destruction. The bottom graffiti portion of the piece has letters formed out of a chessboard where pawns are chained to the ideology of this new world order and pitted against each other for its construction. The background of the piece is a matrix-style binary code consisting of dollar and cent symbols to represent the true matrix. The correlation between this image and gun violence in our neighborhoods is that when God consciousness dies in the hearts of the people, so do the people. The secular revolution emerged from its cocoon into what it will ultimately be in the 1900s. A century plagued with massive wars and rampant consumerism and a complete disregard for life of all sorts. Our hoods are a symptom of this problem, as they are following the same downward trajectory of the devaluation of life as was witnessed during the 20th century on a global scale due to the rise of this new secular ideology. In short, the death of God consciousness equates to the death of man and destruction of land. As for dissecting the anatomy of destruction in our hoods, then all one has to do is assess the nature of greed. It was greed and lust for power that led to chattel slavery, Jim Crow, the killing of our civil rights leaders, and implementation of modern-day slavery under the 13th Amendment made possible through the system of mass incarceration. A system fueled today by man's age-old pursuit of unbridled self-interest irrespective of its consequences. This is witnessed in today's rap industry, which incentivizes the glorification of the criminality that keeps the system of mass incarceration and subsequent slavery going, all in the name of self-interest for money, fame and power. When self-destruction becomes a cultural norm, then the true revolution is in the preservation of life, quality of life and peace. Today we are witnessing the results of a devilishly persuasive system of materialism spawned in the Enlightenment era, which ultimately produces a coerced sense of voluntary enslavement of man to man due to man's pursuit of such self-interest free of the guiding foresight of our Creator. The killings in our hoods are not due to material poverty, but rather they are due to spiritual poverty. This is why money, by default, cannot and will not fix this problem. On the contrary, it only creates more symptoms to the problem in the form of gentrification, whereas people are not repaired but rather replaced, adding to the symptom of mass incarceration. Upon closer observation, we find that the spiritual and therefore moral decline in our neighborhoods began its exponential fall immediately following the assassination of our spiritual, civil and human rights leaders in the mid-60s. Within one generation, 20 to 30-year span, of the assassination of Malcolm X and MLK, our hoods went from chanting slogans of freedom, equality and justice for all, to chanting and glorifying the destruction of self. From songs of freedom to songs of killing. To assess the spiritual and moral decline of our hoods, all one has to do is assess the art. Yes, art imitates life, but the opposite is 10 times more true, in that life imitates art. For the sake of money, fame and power, self-destruction was promoted through this industry, contributing greatly to the killing fields we now see today in our hoods. The remedy to this symptom is not governmental intervention, but rather its divine intervention by way of individual choice. We have to choose wisely what we choose as guidance for ourselves and family, and what we allow into our hearts and homes. Then and only then will we see the change we're so desperately calling for. Fix the heart, our world will follow. Heart, home, hood. In this order. The maze within, where change begins.